Let's start off with when you were working full time and then that transition into consulting and then the first job we got and the second that you have now. And then just kind of talk through the salary numbers too, so people can understand like the difference,
Oh yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I would say, kind of talking about like, just making that transition from full time. Definitely like over the years, of course, like many of us, we were told to go to school, get a good job, progress up the ladder, working with those companies. But one of the things that you start to kind of realize is the fact that, you get a little bored, especially us as millennials. We want to kind of do something different, do different projects, continuously learn this, that, and the other. And sometimes in a lot of positions, you start to feel a little stagnant. So, one of the biggest things as far as making that transition into consulting is the fact that, you get the opportunity to always continuously be learning. You're always continuously doing different projects, working with different companies. You're never bored. Also, too, I would definitely say one of the biggest things is if you're not one for the business politics, I know that's definitely one of the big things that you tend to deal with a lot of companies. I know me personally, I like to get my marching orders or get told what project I need to work on and kind of let me go off and do my thing. So that's definitely one of the biggest things. And definitely also the pay. The pay is definitely a big thing. I mean, working as contract, just kind of getting the opportunity to go out there and get what you're worth, definitely getting that opportunity to definitely get a big boost in income, and you're more in control as far as how you do things with your money. As far as being self-employed, you have to do things in regards to the taxes but that also makes you feel a lot more in control with how your money is being handled. But definitely the biggest thing is that increase in pay it kind of makes it tough to want to go back to working full time. I'll be honest about that.
Tell us some numbers here, man. What are we talking about here? What are we talking about, like on an annual basis?
On an annual basis.
What were you at? Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I know, like, just kind of progressing full time, was getting up around the 100 range, but definitely with the first opportunity, it was a pretty big jump. I think it was around 150,000 a year. That's just starting out. And I think one of the things that I've just kind of realized too, in just this short amount of time, is the fact of, like, as you continue to acquire new skills and see what else is out there, your billable hour goes up. So, before you know it, it's kind of like, hey, I get a job opportunity that's paying $85 an hour that can equate to over 175,000 a year. Just getting those opportunities, and it keeps you excited. It kind of definitely keeps you going.
Very nice, very nice. So where were you at full-time wise for the consulting contract?
Well, I was around 95 a year. And I mean, that honestly, that took about 10 years to get there, and that's another thing kind of too, like you start to kind of realize that, like, man, this is not happening quick enough. It's not, you want to kind of expedite things. You got things you want to do, put money away for your kids' college, start investing this, that, and the other. And it makes it a challenge as well when you're in a situation where if you got student loan debt, this, that, and the other. Working as a consultant, not only are you that you got the skills and the know-how to do certain things, but unfortunately in a lot of these companies, you don't get the opportunity to really showcase what you can do. Whereas when I'm starting to realize, even with the consultant thing, these companies, they're after you. If you got the skills, the know-how, they'll pay you what you're worth, and they'll give you the opportunities to show what you can do. And if they have opportunities that require a certain level, certain different skill set, you can be like, hey, I'll learn it. I can learn the job, and just kind of add that to the repertoire, so that's been awesome. And it's kind of rejuvenated me, to be honest with you.
Very nice. Very nice. So let's call it 6 months, 7 months time frame. You went from around 95 a year to, it was like what, like 130 a year?
Yeah, around one. It was around 135, 140. Yeah.
135, and then now this one that you just got is going to put you up to like that 175 range. Yep. Very nice, very nice. Yeah, and it only keeps going up from there. Yeah, like you said, with the repertoire and so on and so forth. All right, so tell me, are you ever going back?
Oh no,
The
man.
full time?
It's tough. It's tough. It's tough. I mean, I know even like currently right now, just like reaching out, well, kind of building that network. I know you and I talked about that offline as far as like building the network and all. Been getting some hits, been getting some recruiters hit me back about different positions, this, that, and the other. And in some cases, they'll reach out to me about full time, and I have to let them know I'm like, thank you for the consideration, but unfortunately, I'm just working as a consultant. I mean, it makes it tough. I never like completely rule it out, but it'd be tough to go back. I really do like the freedom. I really like the freedom, feeling like you're working for yourself and giving you that time, giving that time back that you can utilize to build other skills and get other certifications, this, that, and the other, to just make yourself more marketable, more flexible.
Yep. Awesome. All right, let's say, what were some of your concerns about going into consulting before? So you kind of had an idea, okay, I like the variety, I like those different things, but what were some of the things that you were worried about?
I would definitely say, especially when you got a family, that security that a full-time job gives you. But then you start to realize that nobody's secure in any position. And also, I know fear tends to kind of hold a lot of people back, but you just kind of got to jump in, just kind of jump in there, and then you kind of learn along the way. Definitely, those were like the two biggest things as far as with me. It was just the security aspect. I've met guys even on the first consulting contract that when they would find out that I am a consultant, they would talk about a lot about security. It was like, well, I need something more secure, more secure. I just let them know that, hey, with me, man, I enjoy it because again, I'm learning something different. I don't get caught up in the politics. I come in, do a good job, and then I'm on to the next assignment type thing. So once you overcome that fear and be willing to just kind of go out there and kind of really depend on yourself, because everything is on you at that particular point, as far as the success, when it comes to working on these different projects. Once you overcome that, man, then you're good to go.
Okay. So tell me, you had a little time in between contracts. How much time was that you've been in between contracts? So we're talking about the stability side of things. How much time was that?
Well, it's been a month. The contract was just a little short, but at the same time, definitely when you have that emergency fund put up, you're good. I mean, you don't really stress. I mean, you're in a situation where you're kind of living check to check or not being really fiscally responsible. It can be a little worrisome, but didn't really have to worry about that by just kind of putting money up and just kind of utilize that time to, again, not only build the network, but also work on certifications, work on studying, work on, just building my business, this, that, and the other. Is you can fill that time up. And that's another thing too that's awesome about the whole consulting thing is you get so much of your time back. I know definitely while you're working a full-time job, it's unfortunate, but a lot of these jobs, you get 2-3 weeks of vacation and you got to wait until the next year to get that time, especially, again, when you got kids, you got family, you want to be able to spend time with them, and you kind of work on your own schedule. I mean, it's amazing, man. I wish I would have known about it and got into it.
I hear you. Yeah, I was running some quick numbers here, and with taxes, because obviously you could keep more money when you're a contractor because you can write things off and you don't get certain types of taxes being a contractor and whatnot. You actually are making double what you're making in take-home pay after the taxes and everything, and the difference between full-time and consulting. So even if you would have to be out of work for 6 months in order for it to be just the same as what you had in full-time. That's unheard of, to be out of 6 months. If you're out 6 months, it's because you didn't want to work.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people, who want to hire. So that's awesome. What about benefits? What do you do for benefits? That's one of the things I hear quite a bit from different people. Is number one fear is the stability, and the second one is benefits and things of that nature.
Well, I mean, if you have a spouse that has a full-time job, that helps. That definitely helps. But also tell me you could do HSAs, things like that. Just kind of putting money aside. Again, it's the responsibility falls on you, so you kind of go in and set a lot of those things up. That was definitely something that I looked into. But again, definitely having a spouse that is still full time, that helps when it comes to the benefits aspect. Because again, like how you mentioned, that's typically another thing people mention when it comes to the whole security aspect of a full time position. The benefits, this, that, and the other. But a lot of that stuff, again, is on you. You're in control, and you go in and set all of that up. So.
Okay. And we talked about, a lot of different things over our time, like discussing going to consulting and whatnot. Do you think it's necessary information to have? Like, do you feel like you got a good jump start by having that information beforehand, like knowing like those lessons learned, things that I learned on my way? Yeah.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, just kind of, when you get that information from individuals who have done what you're wanting to do, it definitely puts your mind at ease. It definitely helps you overcome that fear a lot sooner. Because I mean, that fear of the unknown is what keeps many of us from making that transition. Definitely, again, going into consulting, the fear of what do you do when you don't have consistent work, or what do you do to find work? As far as like building your network, this, that, and the other. It's amazing because nowadays, compared to how it was years ago before social media and the internet, this, that, and the other, as far as networking, you get your business cards, you got to go door to door trying to find work. But then, spending 30 minutes a day on LinkedIn, building your network, before you know it, you got recruiters from all over constantly reaching out to you about job opportunities, this, that, and the other. And it's a whole lot easier than it was back then. But when you got a person who kind of gives you that roadmap, it makes it helps you definitely overcome that fear a whole lot sooner.
Awesome. So tell me about this month off. Like, what have you been doing?
Yeah. So with this month off, man, I've been spending time with my son. Doing a little traveling. Also, too, just kind of working on building my business. Also, getting some much needed reading done, much relaxation. Been working on some certifications. I mean, it's been nice to not have to wait until a weekend to get certain things done, or have to take time off to get certain things done. I mean, it's been nice, and I'm like, I can get used to this.
Yeah, it's always nice, like when you go to the store or something, and you go there, or you go someplace, and it's on like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, as opposed to a weekend. You're like,
man,
where's everybody?
Yeah, like everybody you see in the store, they're retired, and it's like, I'm in and out. Within 15, 20 minutes, in and out. I'm like, I can get used to it.
Yep. Absolutely. Awesome. Okay. Tell me about the future. Like, tell me, like, what do you foresee for, like, let's call it over the next 5 years? Where do you think you're going to be? What do you, in terms of like working and lifestyle wise, and then also in salary wise, what's your expectations?
Well, over the next 3 to 5 years, man, I would say, like, I do have a goal to get to that point where I'm making $250,000 a year. And as far as just like lifestyle, one of the biggest things with the whole consultant thing is kind of helped me realize that, hey, I can make this whole retirement thing, I can speed it up. I know we typically, just staying in the lane that we were taught coming out of school, as far as, go to school, get a good job, this, that, and the other, and you kind of retire when you're 65. Start thinking to myself, I'm like, what if I want to retire by 45, or 40, and this is definitely an avenue. And also the biggest thing with me, what I'm starting to realize with the whole consulting thing, is something that money can't buy, which is time. The amount of time you do that. You start thinking about a lot of those things when you are working a full-time position, this, that, and the other, that when it comes to spending time with your kids, kind of doing family vacations, this, that, and the other, everything is based off of, it's the company determines all of that, as far as your vacation time, this, that, and the other. And just, being able to just be able to do things with the children, like during the week, just getting that time back, that where I don't necessarily have to have like a babysitter. I could spend time with my son and just do all those things. I just think like that's one of the biggest things, is just the time brought back, and also to having that time to do things that you're passionate about. I know definitely one of the things I want to definitely get into is, with real estate, doing some of those things, but having that available time as well as the capital to, make a lot of those things happen a whole lot sooner than, 30, 40 years from now. So that's definitely one of the biggest things. And also too, doing a lot more traveling, which is a big thing. This whole COVID thing is
Awesome.
big.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Awesome. Yeah, there's actually another thing that we got to talk about is how you can use your consulting business to really start getting into real estate. There's some nice things that you can do with your business now that you're showing revenue and you get to a couple of years of revenue in your business. Then you could start purchasing types of real estate through SBA funds and stuff like that. So we'll talk about that some more too, and really start. You'd be surprised at what you can do and how things change.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, awesome. Let's see. All right, so you've gone from 95 to almost 175 annually. So you're talking, and really it's about double again when you think about it. All right, so what would you pay in order to get this $80,000? If you could go to the store, you could buy $80,000 increase in worth to use it to pay if you had the funds to do it.
Oh man, that's a good question. How much would I be willing to pay to get an $80,000 increase year over year? Oh man. I would pay almost pretty much anything, honestly, at this particular point. Like I can't really put a number to it.
Would 70,000 be worth it?
70,000, yeah. If that's going to get me 80,000, yeah, I would pretty much pay. I'll pay anything to get that type of like increase year over year. Oh man, yeah. Like what you could do with that extra money?
Yep. Even one of the things that's nice that happens when you get into the consulting space is, you just automatically start thinking like a business because you are a business, and then you start thinking about your return on investment, and you put money into it. How much am I going to get out of it? And one thing about going into consulting, like that's like a very, very stable thing. It's not like throwing it into some other type of investment that you don't have control over. You don't know what's going to happen. Like this is investing in yourself. And whenever you do that, like you have the most control over that investment. Yeah. No, that's good. And actually, really, when you start thinking about investment and you start talking about year over year, then you start thinking, okay, well, actually, I probably would be willing to pay more than what I would make in 1 year because I know I'm going to make that over multiple years. So
definitely.
For anybody watching this in the future, it doesn't cost $70,000 to do the coaching. Maybe one day it will. So let's say you're heading into the office of your next consulting contract, and there you meet a couple of these QEs there. You're sitting at the lunch table with them post COVID and all of this good stuff, and they're like, "Man, Chris, how do I get into consulting, man? How do I do that? Like, is it worth it? Should I do it? Worried about stability, all these different things." What would you tell them?
Well, I would just kind of tell them based off of my experiences, that's normal to have those fears. That would be the first thing. But just also realizing that, hey, one of the biggest things with the consultant thing is on you. Like, as long as you believe in yourself, definitely. And also too, don't be afraid of, I know a lot of people are afraid of making mistakes or the fear of failure, this, that, and the other. Once you just overcome those fears and just jump out there, man, just jump out there. You'll stumble a little bit, but always just, if your perspective when it comes to failure, just look at it as an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to get better. There's definitely times, definitely things that I didn't know, but trust and believe, I'll learn it. I'll take some time, I'll go home and I'll teach it to myself, or, just continue just adding to you, just constantly learning, and if you're one of those continuous learners and one of those that like the challenge, one of those that just put a lot of emphasis on, if you just have a lot of belief in yourself, I'm like, man, just jump out there and do it. And again, when it comes to the whole stability aspect, the main thing is just building your network. There's work out there. That's one of the biggest things that I've recognized with a lot of the time that I spend on LinkedIn, continuously working on building a network. There is work, there is a demand, And I mean, it's just a matter of just reaching out to individuals, making those connections and just building those relationships. And you can make it something where it can become a consistent thing where you're not just necessarily working contracts, but it could feel like you're working full time, pretty much, just different assignments. So.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, awesome. When I was giving my presentation before on transitioning from full time into consulting, you mentioned something that one thing that really stood out to you was sort of the emotional decision of leaving the full time job. Talk a little bit about that and like how powerful it is, and like something that you really want to think about beforehand.
Yeah, man, definitely. You want to definitely take that time out and just make sure that you're ready for it, because you definitely go through a lot of emotions before making a decision to jump out there. You know, you start thinking of like the worst case scenarios. Well, what if this doesn't work out? Well, what if I don't consistently keep work? How is that going to affect the home life as far as having an income coming in to keep bills paid, this, that, and the other. But as long as when you're starting to kind of go through a lot of those things, you at the same time too, you kind of sit down and come up with a game plan, to kind of minimize those risks. And then also too, you just kind of come to a decision that, hey man, I'm betting on myself. I'm putting all the cards on the table. I know what I'm capable of. I know what I can do, and I know what I can bring to the table, and this is going to work. So it's like just keeping the faith. You pray on it as well. So just keeping the faith, and everything is going to work itself out. It always does.
Yep. Very nice. Very nice. I think, one of the things that I listen to Tony Robbins all the time. I love his stuff. And one of the things that he talks about, and lots of very successful investors and managers of like private equity funds and all those different things, they talk about asymmetrical risk. So a high upside with a very low downside. And that's one of those things that comes in with consulting as well. Is like there's a huge upside with some low downside. But I think when we don't talk about and don't address those fears, that downside starts to seem like it's bigger than the upside. Right. And so let's explore that for a second. Let's say worst case scenario, overnight, all contracts work dries up. Let's say it dries up completely, so on and so forth. How long do you think it would take you to get a full-time job?
Oh, it won't take long at all. It won't take long at all. Just one of the reasons for the fact that even while working as a consultant, I mean, you're getting these other skills that you continually adding to your resume where, if you did need to go back full time, I mean, you have even more experience doing a variety of different things. Maybe you worked at various companies, various industries, whether it's medical devices, automotive, this, that, and the other. It makes you highly, highly marketable. So it wouldn't be a challenge at all to go back full time. Of course, it would be an adjustment, coming from working as a consultant. It's like, oh man, I'm back to, pay. I mean, that right there in itself is just, it'll be a little disappointing, but definitely, it wouldn't be a challenge at all. I mean, you definitely just added so many different skills to your resume that you won't have a tough time finding the full-time position. And I mean, and that's kind of like that safety net of knowing that, hey, I can go back to full-time if it really did dry up that much. But from what I'm seeing, man, I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. There's so much work out there. And again, as long as you're continuously adding to your skill set through different certifications and different trainings and workshops, I mean, it just makes you even more flexible.
Yep. Absolutely. So tell me, you're 10 years? 10 years you've been working roughly now? Yeah. Do you think you could have got into consulting earlier?
Oh man. I think, I could have, based off of some of the positions that I've worked in the past. I know like over the past couple of years, I did take the position with BD, which got me into the medical device industry. I didn't, to be honest with you, I didn't know much about process validation prior to me coming into medical devices. I know definitely in automotive, PPAP is really, really big, and definitely doing a lot of SPC and, Six Sigma and stuff like that. But I think it was just the right time. I may have been able to, but honestly, with the amount of the different industries that I've worked in over the past 10 years has helped me become more well-rounded in a sense of making me a lot more flexible. It would have been nice, sometimes I definitely talk to myself about the fact that, man, I wish I would have did it about, 3-4 years ago and gotten into it and could have been further along in the whole consulting. But, everything happens for a reason. And I think this was just the right time.
Very good, very good. Yeah, no, it's definitely good. I think one of those key things was that experience at BD that you had, because medical device and pharma, those industries are growing like crazy. You have investors now coming in and putting in tons of money into these startups. You have these big companies who are almost getting rid of their R&D departments and buying, these small startups who can move faster. Now it used to be that startup companies is where you would go to get paid less, but you get more experience.
Yeah.
Now some of these startups, like, this is where you go to get like top-notch salary and consulting bill rates. And these guys are backed by venture capitalists, and they're paying big money to lure big talent away from these bigger companies. So it's interesting. It's a great field to be in. That's one of the things that I like to talk about a lot too, is kind of knowing where the industry is going, how to position yourself, where's the demand going to be, so that you stay ahead of the curve. Like, even your experience with PPAP from automotive, medical devices really trying to take that on. And of course, they don't always do it right. It's you hear some kind of weird things out there. It's like, no, guys, this came from automotive. Like, this is how you're like, this is how it's supposed to. There's actually a manual out there that says how PPAP is supposed to be done.
Yeah.
It's really not like a theory and all this. But that kind of stuff there is pretty critical to the long-term success and positioning yourself. And if you keep an eye on that, you can position yourself, years in advance for multiple different avenues, depending on where things are going. And it's really not that hard to see. But yeah, you mentioned networks and how important network is. How important is it? Like, how critical would you say it is to the stability and all those different things as a part of the consulting lifestyle?
Oh man, I mean, it's very big when it comes to the whole consulting lifestyle. I mean, your network is like your lifeline, as far as just knowing what other opportunities are out there. I mean, you don't have time to go door to door, kind of reaching out to these different companies to find out about all of the work that is out there available. So as far as like building the network, they're pretty much working for you. They reach out to you, and I mean, you create listservs. I mean, they call you directly. Even if you're working an opportunity currently at the time, they'll reach out to you and say, hey, just reach out to me, once your contract's up, this, that, and the other. And I mean, it's just nice as far as giving you reassurance that, hey, I mean, I have these individuals that I can reach out to, or will reach out to me whenever work becomes available. It definitely helps to ease that fear again that we tend to have when we're talking about making that transition from full-time to consultant, as far as security, knowing if there's work out there available. So that, just building that network is critical, man. I mean, just getting on there again. I know we talked about it a lot, spending time, at least 30 minutes a day on LinkedIn, and just reaching out to individuals and that are recruiters or other consulting companies, whether you want to do self-contracting work with other consulting firms, or just other individuals, where I've actually spoken to people where they're like other consultants where we've connected, and they're like, hey, if I hear something, I'll reach out to you, and vice versa. So that's been real big, just spending that time out there, and you'll be amazed about how many people are out there that are doing the same thing, that are willing to look out for one another, So that's been refreshing as well.
It's a great space. You would think that since everybody's like competing for different contracts and stuff like that, or essentially everybody's competitors, that it would be more cutthroat or anything of that nature, but it's really not. Like, there's so much work out there that, it's like, hey, if you see something, like, let's help each other out. I know I'm going to need it one day down the future, so let's go ahead and do that. No, it's a very great culture. Everybody's willing to network. And so I always tell people that you're not bothering somebody, especially in the consulting world. Maybe full-time world, they might feel like you're bothering, but in the consulting world, you're not bothering them. You might be the next lead that leads to their next contract, and vice versa.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's one thing I like to offer as part of the coaching program is I have like 3,500 recruiters that I'm connected to. I get all the time they're contacting me about different positions and do I know anybody and so on and so forth. Yeah. And that's one of those things that I like to provide is like a supplement until you start building your own network. And I want you to build your own network. Like that's exactly what I did. 30 minutes a day, every day for 5 years is how I got up to these amount of connections. And you doing that for yourself, you start developing those relationships. And I always say, and I know recruiters are going to love me for this, never ghost a recruiter message. Even if you're just going to say, thanks for reaching out, I'm not available at this time. That's it. Very simple, very brief, and go from there. Don't ghost them because you never know. They might have a position for you. And guess what? They're not going to want to work with you. Mm-hmm. If you just like ghost them or even worse, are rude. Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Anything else that you could think of that you would mention to anybody, wanting to do consulting or even consultants trying to improve their business?
Yeah, I mean, for anybody that's wanting to get into consulting, like we mentioned earlier, man, definitely just kind of give yourself some time to mentally prepare and ask yourself those questions like, am I ready for this? Because again, everything is solely on your shoulders. I mean, if you're a person who enjoys new challenges, new opportunities, you'll never get bored. That's one thing for sure. You'll never get bored. So you want to try different things. And also too, man, you got to be an individual who continuously wants to learn. Definitely again, you'll come across certain positions where there'll be certain tasks that the client may ask you to do that you never say no, never say that I don't know how to do this or do that, hey, yep, I'll do it. And you'll take some time out to learn it. I mean, there's so many resources and tools out there that you can learn something. And I mean, again, if you're a continuous learner, you're excited about that. As again, add into your repertoire. And like how we talked about earlier on the call, if you ever have to go back to working full time, if all of consulting work dried up, all of these new skills that you learned, they're just going to help you. Definitely, again, we talked about it as well. The pay is something that is really appealing. You definitely increase your earning potential. And also too, yeah, man, I mean, it's a great space to be in. And for current consultants, I mean, just continuously work on building that network and reaching out to one another as well. And just kind of looking out for one another. I mean, it is really a community. There's so many groups out there where everybody's out there, just trying to get it.
Yep. Absolutely. That's interesting. You brought up a good point there too about somebody asking you to do something and not saying no. Just give yourself a timeline to get back to them, and then go learn it. Everything is out there. There's a million YouTube videos, a million articles. Yeah. Especially if you built your network up, you probably have people you can reach out to and get top-notch advice and process on how to do something. That's some of the most exciting things. And I always say, now if they're hiring you to do the majority of the job, like if you're doing process validation, that's what the contract is for. Okay, well, don't say you can do it and you've never done it. But if you're doing something like process validation and you haven't heard of certain parts of like variable sampling, well, you just, go learn that. You can go learn that. You have all the foundations and everything to go learn that easily and incorporate that. And the thing is, you can do that better and you can help that company faster than them going out and trying to find somebody else who can get that little part of the deal. So it's actually a win-win. It's not you trying to be a fraud or this and that. And this is something I try to tell my kids. I'm trying to rethink the way that kids need to learn today. Today, everything's at your fingertips. All the information is out there. Your ability to go out there and go find that, digest it, see what's good and what's not, that's the real skill that's going to push people forward and what you need for consulting. So that's huge. That's huge. And I guess, okay, last question. ASQ certs. How important do you think it is to get your ASQ certs? and what does it give you?
I mean, getting those ASQ certifications, they are really important because it's all about first impression. Definitely when you're reaching out to a lot of these consulting, like whether consulting firms or, working as a subcontractor, it definitely helps get your foot in the door. It kind of lets you know that these are some of the things that just separates you from other candidates because of your know-how. And also too, it also tells a lot of these companies that, hey, you're a person that's a continuous learner. It didn't just stop after you finish school. You're an individual who's constantly out there still learning information, learning something new. And these are just some things that helps separate you from the pack. But definitely, again, when it comes to, when I was talking a little bit earlier about flexibility, just constantly adding to your skill set. I mean, it keeps you on your toes, and it kind of keeps you learning something new. So they're definitely important. Definitely.
Excellent. All right, Chris, man, appreciate the time doing the testimonial. Looking forward to the bigger and bigger things that are coming on. We should touch base with another one of these in like a year's time. Who knows, you might have like a commercial building under your portfolio that you got to, to your consulting business. Yeah, man. Definitely appreciate it, and we'll talk.
All right, bro. Yeah, take it easy. Have a good one.
Awesome. All right, you too.